All right, so chapter 16 is on Earth and Space, and chapter 17 is on rocks and minerals. All right, so a little bit of background. Ancient civilization had difficulty accepting the idea that Earth moved for two reasons. So they couldn't sense any motion of the Earth, and they had ideas about being in the center of the universe and that the universe was created specifically for them. So it wasn't until the 1700s that that concept of Earth in motion became accepted by the general population. So the motions of the Earth around the sun is one. So the yearly rotation of the Earth around the sun is a one of the motions of the Earth. There's also a daily revolution on its axis. So that's another motion of the Earth. And then we have the slow clockwise wobble of the axis itself. All right. So these are three motions that the Earth make continuously. So this is how revolution, inclination, and rotation affect the Earth. So the constant inclination and orientation of the axis together with the Earth's rotation and revolution produce three different effects. So we have the days and the nights that vary in length. We have the seasons that change during the course of a year. And then we have climates that vary with the latitude. All right, so we have the different solstices. So when Earth is at a place in its orbit where the axis points towards the sun, the northern hemisphere experiences longer days and the summer season. So this begins on June 21st and 22nd, and this is called the summer solstice. And 6 months later, the axis points away from the sun, and the northern hemisphere experiences shorter days and the winter season. So this begins on December 22nd and 23rd, and that is called the winter solstice. All right, in between the summer and winter solstice, we have equinoxes. All right, so on March 20th or 21st, Earth is halfway between the solstices. So it has days and nights of equal length. So we call that spring equinox. And then on September 22nd and 23rd, we have autumn equinox. So that's another period of equal nights and days, which identifies the beginning of the fall season. All right, so to differentiate between latitude and longitude, all right, so the lines around the Earth that are parallel to the equator are circles that are parallel to the equator. So the distance from that equator to a point on that parallel part is called a latitude point. And then north and south arcs that intersect the poles, so the north and south poles, these are called meridians. And the meridian runs through the Greenwich Observatory, and that is a reference line that they call the prime meridian. All right, so the distance of a point east or west of the prime meridian is called longitude. So longitude is straight up and down points for the poles, and then the latitude is the um, points parallel to the equator. All right, so this is the difference between latitude points and longitude points. All right, longitude is between the North and the South Pole. Latitude is parallel to the equator. So that was the gist of chapter 16. Chapter 17 is on rocks and minerals. All right, so Earth is made of different materials. So the elements of silicon and oxygen make up 75% of all the elements in the outer layer or the crust of the Earth. So the elements combine to create crystalline chemical compounds called minerals. And a mineral is defined as a naturally occurring inorganic solid element or compound with a crystalline structure. So on to rocks. A rock is defined as an aggregation of one or more minerals that have been brought together into a cohesive solid over time. Sedimentary rocks are formed from sediments, so accumulations of weathered rock materials that settle out of the atmosphere or out of the water. Moss's hardness scale. Hardness is the resistance of a material to being scratched. So classically, hardness is measured by using Moss's hardness scale, which ranges from 1 to 10. So 1 being the softest materials and 10 being some of the hardest materials found on the planet. So an example of one of the softest materials with a hardness of 1 on Mohs scale is talc. So if you've ever heard of talc powder, it's very, very soft, softer than even sand, really small micro particles. Um, and on the opposite end of that scale, with a hardness of 10 on Mohs scale, is a diamond. So a diamond is some of the hardest materials on our planet. All right, and that is the gist of chapter 16 and 17.